2 live.
You're now watching two old farts making noises.
Joe, do you want to know why some businesses succeed and some businesses fail? Why some businesses grow and some businesses don't? That's what this show is all about. Business, business, business.
All right, here we are again.
The various member group.
The various members of the Lost Dollar Business Club. Welcome to our viewers and our listeners back to the Lost Dollar Business Club. I'm Michael Amaturo from Bendicoot.com and very happy to have everybody back on the show. Big topics we have for today. LLCs and shell companies buying up property all across the U.S., which, as we all know, is common all across the world. We'll talk the bankruptcies in China. We're talking about Evergrande and Country Garden, big real estate company bankruptcies. And we'll end up on youth unemployment, which we all know unemployment is a questionable number in many cases, but it's something definitely worth discussing. So we've got those topics. Get the freedom and the flexibility of remote work in the lucrative tech industry. Bend your life around the world. Bendicoot is the premier course and community for thriving in a remote tech career. Join the revolution today. Bendicoot.com, official partner of the Lost Dollar Business Club.
Well, that was a quick commercial, huh? David, is your control board working, or are you just like, is it just taking over? It has a mind of its own.
It's doing weird stuff today. I'll tell you, I've got no control.
But you've got the right background. You've got a good background today. Looks
yeah,
good,
well,
Andy.
it's for all those coke addicts that like to watch the coke.
Oh, boy, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the guys on Wall Street. Nice.
Yeah, reminds them of all the good times.
Yeah, back in the 80s when there were no rules or regulations. Man.
Right, which is different now because looks like the Treasury Department's cracking down on exposing people who are buying houses with cash, luxury homes with cash, which is a common situation now because lots of people, apparently the rich, are hiding their money in real estate, which hasn't that been done for a long time?
Yeah, well, the Russians used to do it. We used to call it, in New York City, they bought what we called safety deposit boxes, were just all the condos. Like I have a friend in a building, and when the Russian buying spree was at its height, and China as well, their building has maybe 300 residents. Yeah. And he was like, there's only 7 people in the whole building. Right. And he said, because they're all safety deposit boxes, like they buy a floor and they don't make the floor a penthouse floor. They just buy all 7 units on the floor. And, they're never there. They don't rent them. They do nothing. It's used for that. In Miami, South Americans do that. There'll be a condo that goes up and all the wealthy ones that are trying to get their money out will come and, like a friend of mine's an agent, and she's like, oh yeah, I just sold like 3 floors. I'm like, that's great. And she goes, yeah, they're never going to live here. They don't gut them. They nothing. They just done. And then 10 years later, they go get their money out. So I think that has a lot to do with it. And then real people with money, not buying make-believe property that's useless, really hide their money in art. Because that's a transferable asset that no one will ever know. And you keep it in an export-free zone in like Luxembourg in a warehouse. And you sounds like billions of dollars in art.
Steven, it sounds like you're a professional.
I read a book. I read a book. Anyway, but that's if you don't know what to do with your if you need to hide your money, that's what you're going to do.
Hides his money. Very good.
Yeah, damn.
Not in statues, John.
Yeah.
Not in statues.
Yeah. The other thing that I was interested about properties all being bought. I was listening last night actually, but to a program that a lot of properties, certainly in big cities in Europe, are being bought up by people who are using them purely for Airbnb.
Right.
So that again, it's not a second home. It's a way of getting an income and also trying to protect that income by buying property. And it has a sort of roll-on effect to lots of people who can't afford to live in these places anymore, because there was one tower block, I think, and it's really right in the place to be in London. It's only got 2 residents. The rest are all empty, and they're all Airbnb.
But see, the
So,
problem with
yeah, it's
Airbnb
just-
right now, what's happening, like in Dallas, I want to say it's as of December 23rd, the city council voted that there are apparently 55,000 Airbnbs in Dallas, which I was shocked. But as of December 23rd, no more. You cannot be an Airbnb. So I guess they're going to do a lawsuit or whatever it might be, but that's a big issue. Like we have some in San Antonio, and and you have to pay tax and this and that. So Airbnb, if you do it legally,
Right.
you do not make money. Full stop. Because by the time you pay the hotel tax, which a lot of people don't because they don't register with the city or get the permits and do this and do that, it's like we figured out of every $100 spent at our Airbnb, we walk away with maybe 8 to 10%. And then we have sometimes where they rent out for months at a time, and sometimes we're nothing. So at the end of the year, it's a break even. So a lot of cities like Dallas now just said no, because a lot of people with their Airbnbs, when they look at the Airbnb statistics and they look at how many people are registered as a hotel, because that's what you have to register as a hotel if you have an Airbnb. There's apparently a disparity. 55,000 are registered. 7 people are paying tax. So Dallas is like, enough's enough. It's like, screw you.
All the sort of hot tourist spots, big cities have an issue.
Yeah.
And it seems to be, if you go to like these really quaint little villages, or, coastal villages, or at the bottom of a mountain that people can do mountain walks. So the half the village is empty, and the other half, is just all these little key boxes on the outside. So everybody knows it's all Airbnb.
Right.
So you have a key in a little key box that you have to punch the code in.
Yeah.
So
But I'm also thinking,
that drives to a bigger problem, though, is that people can't afford to buy homes themselves as first-time home buyers.
Exactly.
Right.
That ties into the shell company situation where people are buying all these properties, or LLC shell companies are buying properties on behalf of much larger investment firms.
Mhm.
And that's also driving up property values.
Well, BlackRock, last year there was an article. I think they bought, I want to say it's either 1,300 or 2,500 homes.
Right, single-family homes.
Single-family homes under this just to rent them out.
Right.
So it's really, I'm glad that the U.S. is going to look into it, but it's also foreign companies like Chinese bank is doing. Everyone's doing it, and investment banks like Goldman are making money from it, because Goldman, there was an article in the FT, they have a fund and it has a lot of foreign money in it, and what better way to go and buy up America for the foreigners, as long as you make your fee.
Right. And that's part of the problem, because there's also countries that are, or these shell companies that are buying up now sensitive properties that are near military bases or in farmland. Right. And there's a big question as to whether that should even be allowed, which obviously it should not. It needs to be regulated in some way, or at least exposed or sunshine lawed, so you can actually see who these people are and what they're actually going to do with these properties.
Yeah.
But haven't people always, if they've had a lot of money, always invested in property?
Yeah.
Yes and no.
Isn't it
maybe the first caveman was renting out the second cave.
Yeah.
It goes back a long way.
I think it just depends on how you were raised. There are a lot of people that own property. Like I was reading something about Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like he took his first money and he bought an apartment building. Mm-hmm. So he's been investing in real estate, let's say, since the 70s. And that's very cool. But the other thing you have to look at is real estate doesn't always go up. I think we found that out, right? And we're seeing that now even. So I think you have to diversify. So I think people with real wealth, like I said, maybe they own some real estate. They own luxury. They own supercars because those are appreciate. They're going to own artwork. They're going to own other things that are appreciate. And they're going to own things that the common person doesn't think of. Like when I said art, like everyone looked at me like I had 3 heads, right? I've been collecting art since I'm 16. But you can put money in places that the common man or the common woman doesn't do, because they don't think of it. They don't know. Like they buy a picture and they hang it on their wall and they're like, it's pretty. someone with money's buying a picture and they're going, yeah, it's pretty, it's going into the vault. Or, it's pretty, we're going to hang it over here,
Yeah.
but I know in 5 years I can sell it for X. And I'm assuming at some point the art market will be like the real estate market. It'll implode, but they always come back. And the same with supercars and whatnot, and watches and everything, right? It's all cyclical. But if nobody cares if I'm a shell company and I buy a 250 GT Ferrari for $60 million.
Right. That's yes.
Right. And nobody cares if I buy
a much
Picasso.
social issue.
Right. Well, this is a security issue, it seems. But even that, but nobody cares anymore. That's the nobody really cares that China is going to buy farmland next to an Air Force base. I mean, it really is one of those things nobody cares.
Care.
I don't think they do.
People are caring. Some people
should you care? Should you care?
Absolutely. Sensitive property near military installations.
Okay, why should we care? That's I think what David's getting at. Like why should we care?
Yeah.
So if I have a farm next to an Air Force base, first of all, I'm an idiot. I'm moving. Because there's my cows and my chickens and my hens and my daughters for the traveling salesman. They're not going to get any sleep. So I need to understand. I understand it like we shouldn't, but who are you to tell me who I can sell to? Yeah, and the government's not going to pay me market value, right? They always come in and they just say, oh no, we have to take this because of whatever. Like if you look at Area 51, they bought all this real estate for, as one guy said on an interview, for pennies on the dollar. And it was worth more, but it's the government. You can't really argue with them. But if a shell company comes to me and says, I'll give you market value, why can't I sell to them?
Well, yeah. I mean, the article that I was reading at the beginning of the week about these people in California, I think they were paying 7 times the value. I mean, if somebody says to you, look, here is a shitload of money, please move. Now
tomorrow.
Okay. Oh, it's that much, is it? All right. Well, that pays for the removal truck.
Where do you draw the line?
So I'm off.
Yeah.
Where do you draw the line?
Where do you draw the line?
That was
the line.
The
line, I think line is always, Michael, somewhere in your wallet between feeling slightly empty and slightly full.
I would agree with that.
It's kind of the American way, isn't it? Yeah, the pursuit of happiness.
Yeah. The
Greed is
good.
Here, Michael, let me do it this way.
Greed is good.
Yeah.
Chinese farmland's even better.
There you go. So let me do it this way, Michael. You live in upstate nowhere, which is very nice upstate nowhere, because I have friends who, other than you, that live there, right? Very beautiful. And we'll say, I don't know what your property is worth. I'm making, these are all made up numbers, so nobody get all excited. Let's say your property is $500,000. And that's what, if you go sell it tomorrow, it's $500,000. John comes along because he has his Nazi gold and he needs a big backyard to bury it in, and he wants to move it from Argentina. And John comes to you and goes, Michael, I want to give you $5 million for your property if you move by the end of the month. What are you going to do?
Yeah, but I'm not next to. Well, I'd be very hard.
Forget it. I don't care. I don't care if you're next to a base or not.
This place.
Yeah,
but so let me. All right. So let me see. If you're next to it,
your real circumstances,
right. If you're next to a military base, you're smart enough not to buy next to a military base. But let's say you were, and John still comes to you and says, "I know your property is worth $500,000. The U.S. government offered you $300,000 because they're always looking for a deal because
Isn't it about who is buying the property? Isn't it about?
You won't know. How do you know in a shell company? But how would you know?
That's what has to be opened up. That's what has to be.
Why does it have to be open? Why does it have to be opened up?
But my question still is this: $500,000 or $5 million? Do you care who's buying your property? Yes or no? I mean, I know you're a billionaire, so $5 million to you is weekend in Vegas. But
Vegas,
I say to you, Michael, I'm going to give you $5 million, and you're going to be like, "Who's the buyer?" And I go, "It's some company in the Bahamas or some company in Bermuda or whatever." And you're gonna. So would you sell or not sell?
God, it would be a tough choice, my friend. It'd be a tough
90% of the Americans would sell.
I think 99% of people would set their Hyundai accent on fire on the way out.
Well, look, talking about real estate companies on fire, what's going on with bankruptcies in China?
Oh, Country Grand. Country Garden just went bankrupt with I think it's $7 billion. That's like their largest real estate bankruptcy. That's even bigger than Evergreen.
Yeah. Evergreen. Yeah.
I think that has more of an effect really because they're in let's say the B segment. So a lot of people, because the way that the Chinese system works is you take out a mortgage before it's built, so in order for it to be built. So that money was paid up front, and they're in a lot of B locations, so not the big cities, but so yeah, and a lot of ramifications. Goes right through to people who supplying building materials. Big mining companies, your Rio Tintos and these sort of companies. They're gonna feel it, because all that building material, all that raw product going into buildings is gone. Market's gone. Boom.
Right.
What was that?
And that's 30. They say that China's real estate sector is 30% of their total GDP. So that's a huge.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's that much, but
Oh no, they used to do the GDP by a few years ago. There's a mega article, I think it was in The Economist, that said that how they calculate GDP is for every unit built. That goes towards GDP, whether someone moves in or not, right? So they went. Remember, they have all these. Like they have the city of London, they have this France, they have all these cities built in the middle of nowhere that no one moved in with 10,000 units. So at some point, and we talked about this before the show, this is basically 2008 America now happening to them. It's like no income verification, low money to get in, blah, blah, blah. And so they're feeling the effects that we felt, 15 plus years ago.
An Olympic stadium that no one lives in.
Yeah.
And now
the only difference is, of course, is that in a lot of these buildings, they're not even complete. People have moved in.
Yeah.
Because they have nowhere else to go. They can't afford to pay their rent anymore. So and they own this concrete shell.
So they're going to go.
Yeah, you can see them putting tents up in them. They're virtually sort of camping in them. So how does the Chinese Communist Party explain that to us all?
Well, they're working on reducing down payments.
They're just evil speculators that have done all of this. That's what they'll say.
Oh, okay, yeah. Right. So, okay, right. Oh, that's fair enough then. Off we go. Let's get my little red book out again. Start waving that.
I was gonna say, also in China, you really don't ask a lot of questions, because if you do, and you're like a Jack Ma, even Jack Ma was
Jack Ma. Remember,
even Jack Ma went on a holiday for 6 months when he said, "I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And I don't care what the government says." And then Zhao went, "Really? That's what you say?" So that was on a Monday, and on a Wednesday, Mr. Ma was not heard from for 6-7 months. And when he came on, he goes, "I love everybody." So yeah, you don't say a lot there, because everybody's either knows somebody or is a secret police. So a little different.
This is affecting
re-education is
millions
real.
of people.
Yeah, it really is. It's very funny. Mao Zedong, when he met with Nixon, and Deng Xiaoping, who came after Mao, he was very interesting, because Deng Xiaoping was a capitalist. Yeah. And if you read anything about him, he was a capitalist. So he's the one that has made China, if you think about it, what it is today. Like, he's the one who started it. The minute Mao opened it up, he literally was like, "Let's go do business globally, open up China again." And he's the one who's taken it. He started it. So all of them are living what he's done. But what they did keep is the Mao philosophy of, you don't argue with the party, you don't do this, you don't do that, and you better have your little red book. So while they're all capitalists and they're all greedy, if you say something wrong, it goes right back to, "Oh no, now you have to go to a re-education camp." So it's very different.
That's the Chinese characteristics. They say everything capitalism with Chinese characteristics. That's the Chinese characteristics.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. You don't argue. You don't argue with daddy, and that's it. And I think a lot of Chinese people know that, and I think it's kind of like they just have to go and go and go. And I think he's in his third term, which is they changed the constitution for him. So this guy's not going in.
He'll be there.
He'll be there till he dies.
He's got the forever deal.
Yes.
Please vote for the forever deal. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they did. And they did.
And they did.
And do you guys have thoughts on what's going on with the yuan? The yuan, the Chinese yuan, because now they're saying that they're trying to reinflate the currency because the currency itself is weaker, and because of the whole collapse around the real estate companies. So the yuan's been tumbling.
But they've been the RMB. They've been inflating the RMB since day one.
Yeah,
I mean, realistically, it's not. You know what I mean? It's like when they go, the BRIC countries go, "We're going to have we're going to have our own currency. I'm like, who's going to back it? With what? That's like, you're not, unless you're going to go to the gold standard that like Nixon got rid of, and you're going to acquire lots of gold or palladium
Gotta have a
or
lot of
lithium
gold.
or something, right? And you're going to put it somewhere and go, it's backed by that. Your currency is, you got Russia. Yeah, no, thank you. You have India, very nice, but no, thank you. You have China, love you, love food, no, thank you. Who else do you have over there? That's Britain or Brazil. Yeah, no, that's not happening. So yeah, and then they want to put.
Ethiopia.
Oh, I'm
They're
sorry.
going to pick up the
Yeah.
tab.
Ethiopia has the Ark of the Covenant. If you put the Ark
Yeah.
of the Covenant backing my currency, I will then, yeah,
Yeah,
sure, that's a
something
There
currency.
you go.
Then all of
There
a
you
sudden
go.
I'm okay.
Oh,
no,
to
but my
be a
point is that
Nigerian billionaire.
Yeah, there
Okay,
you go.
We're not having a discussion about Nigerians, please. Can't
There
get
you
into
go.
trouble
He's very
for that.
upset because he still hasn't gotten paid from his Nigerian sponsor New York trip.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that if you look at it, like I think it's
And the
Zimbabwe. A
bride
friend of
hasn't
mine has.
arrived either.
There you go. I have a buddy who has a Zimbabwe $1 trillion bill, which is worth about 32 cents, and he
Yeah.
has a whole wall of them that he got on Amazon as a joke. He goes, "Look what I got! I counted it like I'm a 32 trillionaire." I'm like, "That's cool." Where? He goes, "In Zimbabwe." And so when we calculated it out, it came out to like $8.37. I go, "Dude, you don't spend that in one spot." So
right.
that's kind of what a brick currency is.
Cheaper
to
than
me.
wallpaper, huh?
I know, right? But that's a brick currency all of a sudden.
Yeah.
It's sort of this make
Yeah,
believe
well, I mean, the
currency.
Saudis are there.
and that's
They'll probably say, we'll back it against oil. Why not?
but you
Cool,
can't really
Chinese.
do that though. Yeah, no, the brick countries in general. I mean, Russia, China. You have to
They
back it against something you have faith in.
Yeah.
Huh?
No, they have talked about this new currency, and it's but yeah, the big question is, what do you back it?
It was going to be a cryptocurrency, wasn't it? They were talking about doing.
the a digital currency.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, China has a digital currency. They have an RMB digital from their central bank. India central bank a few months ago, or maybe longer, said, "Yeah, no, we don't think so." They're doing it, but they're not rushing to do it. Russia, I'm not sure what they have because of the unpleasantness going on there. And Brazil just follows whatever because they have no clue. They're just too busy having carnival every day in the streets. So it's just one of those. I don't think people know, and I think that's an issue. I mean, so when they say they want to be a currency, maybe, but you'd have to really give thought to it. Like at least with the European Union currency, that make believe pretty paper. Not that I believe it's any better or worse than ours, but at least there's some real countries behind it. You know what I mean? So I feel comfortable with that. I feel comfortable with the pound, and even with the dollar. Even though the dollar is just make believe like the rest of them are.
Yeah.
So, but I'm just saying, at the end of the day, the BRIC countries to me, unless, like I said, somebody has a gold deposit that no one knows about that's worth trillions, and that's what they're backing it with, then I'd be like, I don't see where that's a benefit, unless they just want to do it for themselves. And I think
Shall we have a whole load of T-shirts made that says "Brick is for pricks"? Then that kind of rhymes.
David's trying to promote our merch store that's coming out in a few weeks.
That's right. We do have merch coming out. That's
merch coming out for the Lost Dollar Business Club. So he wants to promote that to make sure that everybody gets their merch. Don't worry, we'll run a commercial before every show when it's live. So. But no, I think it's interesting when you look at in general how that will play out on a global scale. I mean, we've been a power now for 100 years, and most superpowers last anywhere from 100 to 250 years, and then they fade away. So we're at that point where someone's could take our place, but
you're lining up for that. I mean, the orange guy's just waiting for it all to happen.
Well, yeah, but forget the orange guy.
And I mean, as far as I know, you can't buy a brown shirt in the US anymore. They're all sold out. So we're all moving in the right direction.
Now, I think you have like UAE, you have Saudi Arabia, and not that they may become a superpower, but really, if you think about it, Saudi Arabia is kind of positioning itself that way. They're buying sports teams, they're buying real estate, they're buying everything. They have money. They have trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars from their oil and these other projects and all their investments.
We should invite them to be members of the Lost Dollar Business Club.
There you go. My point is that if you look at this on a global scale, if you look at this as we have to do the show from Saudi Arabia, John. But if you look at this as on a global scale, it could be very interesting to see, let's say by 2040 or 2050, who the new superpower will be. Because I don't think the US is, whether whoever gets into the White House in 24, I don't think we're going to hold we're not going to hold it.
I've got my money on Ethiopia. That's
Well,
they're ready to rock and roll now, mate. I mean,
so it goes there's you guys shared that. I think David shared the youth unemployment figures in the OECD and China compared to the rest of the world. And China's was hovering around 20% youth unemployment.
For what they've told us.
From what they've told us, and now the data is no longer available as of 2022. They don't publish those age specific data anymore.
Well, they can't find people, you see, because they've got nowhere to live. So it's a bit difficult to go do a census.
But the thing is, the US
they don't have enough money to buy the nameplate for on the front, John. That's the problem. No front doors.
Or probably running toilets, but that's not a problem.
Yeah. Oh hell no! You can run if you need to. You can run to the toilet. You don't need a running toilet.
All right.
But the thing is, we see unemployment in the United States, youth unemployment, claiming to be at 8%, but we know that there's a lot of underemployment. We know that there are many people who have multiple jobs just to get by. So these unemployment figures, are they to be believed, or how do we interpret them?
Absolutely not. I mean, if you think about it, when unemployment figures made sense, it was at a time when people wanted to work.
Good point.
It's a general point now that you think people don't want to work.
Well, let's go back. Let's go back to 2008.
The company who published this is in the employment business. They're employment agents.
Right, so but even ADP publishes numbers that are BS. So here's the thing. In 2008, when we had our little incident here in the States, right, our unpleasantness, then they said, like in 2010, unemployment is back to where it was. What a bunch of crock. Because after, I don't know how long it is, 26 weeks or whatever, you fall off unemployment anyway, right? So then your number doesn't get counted. So you may not find a job. Youth unemployment was down because people weren't doing anything. People have 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 10 jobs now to support themselves. So granted, employment may be wherever, but if you really want to look at underemployment and what it really means when someone says what the employment looks like, the plural employed and unemployed numbers, bull. I mean, because you can just see it when you talk to people like 16-year-olds, the grocery stores can only hire so many 16-year-olds, right? And there's only so many summer jobs, and there's only this and that. And then to Kurt's point, people don't want to work anymore. Like, you know what I mean? They're just like, okay, I can find some government subsidy and and they're like, really? Like, that's just beyond me. So yeah, I think our underemployment numbers, I know
that would be worth studying. There should be a study on this, on the sentiment that that young people in particular don't want to work.
Nobody wants to work. What are you kidding? Nobody wants to work anymore. The work ethic is not being instilled into, I don't know what generation. Like our generation was, you had money, you didn't have money, you worked your 100-hour work week, and that was it. You didn't complain, and you work. When you meet people that are, say, under 40, and you tell them, like, hey, we have to do, they look at you like you have 3 heads and you're the RCA dog. They're like, you want me to work on a Saturday? Work on a Sunday, work past 5 o'clock. I have work-life balance. My kid has ballet. I don't give a crap about your kid or your work-life balance. We're running a business here. I'm not running a daycare. And that's why we go back to like, oh, we want everybody to feel better. No, I don't want everybody to feel better. Like when we hire people, I tell them what I expect. Yeah, it's like we have a company. Our company is to make money. It's not to make you feel better.
New reality.
And
no,
also,
I don't like the new. I don't
also
have to
you have to take into account if you look at like the Amazon get-rich-quick schemes of working online. Yeah. Where does that count in the unemployment numbers?
Well, technically it won't, because theoretically you're self-employed. Exactly. You can't pay yourself unemployment, so it's sort of like, okay, now what? So I'm very dumbfounded.
You're just taking out the stats.
Yeah,
you don't register.
Begin with. Yeah.
So the numbers are off.
Right. Yeah. I think they've been off since 2008. But when I read a guy's book, and he was going through the numbers from like, let's say like the 60s up until 2020. And he was just like chart after chart after chart after chart was like off by this percentage and that percentage and but underreported, overreport. And he was literally doing like a mega study, almost state by state, region by region. And I thought it was very interesting. So when they come out with unemployment, you know, new jobs, 290,000, I'm like,
Right.
okay, how about the other 17 million people you're not counting? You know, and if you're doing online work and you have an Amazon business, or listen, let's forget Amazon where you actually send something out. Look at the guys and girls making money on YouTube that don't work, right? They produce content. Not that it's not work, because we do this and it is work.
Content
But
creators.
Instagram, they make money on. TikTok, they make money on, right? And they make money by taking pictures of themselves or dancing. I don't really consider that work, but okay. But it's very interesting that that is where we're headed. And now with AI, well, as AI evolves even more, people aren't going to do jack. They're going to wake up in the morning and go, hey, Hal, this is what needs to get done today. And Hal's going to be like, okay.
Yeah,
done.
but the reality is that 1% of the people actually make any real money to make a living off, and the rest of them don't. So the reality eventually catches up with you, and you have to go and do real work. You
Right.
can't just sit in a computer and create little photographs and expect that you're going to fund the lifestyle that you aspire through all this social media. So I mean,
And that's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
You know, when we talk about people going into this lifestyle-oriented workforce, for lack of a better, what are they doing to support it? They're not working in blue-collar jobs because they don't want to. They think it's beneath them, right? So
Right.
they're not doing it. Those jobs aren't being filled. And then on the other side, we've got all these people that are pretending to be rich or to be affluent.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a joke. So when you do these unemployment numbers, what's it based on?
yeah.
Air.
Yeah.
It's based on air.
Plus, you
Well,
know,
then-
like in
But if
January
you look at it,
and February,
Sorry.
you know, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, you know, they don't actually report the real numbers. You know, there's the whole formula. They seasonally adjust the numbers, then the next month they revise them. So it's full of, you know, as you point out, inconsistencies, and they're very unreliable. Yeah.
yeah.
The U6,
But if
there's another statistic, which is the U6, which gives a much clearer picture, and
Okay.
that number is much bigger than the headline unemployment number. I forget what the number is, but I think it was somewhere in the 6 or 7%.
The U6 unemployment rate.
I think
U6.
unemployment's higher than
U6. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's much higher than 6 or 7% unemployment.
Yeah.
But one of the crazy things, and something that Kurt touched on about, you know, people, blue collar workers, or people who don't want to get their hands dirty. You know, if you're an electrician or a plumber, you know, you could quite easily be on $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year or more. Find one when you need one. You can't. So, you know, all these trades are there, which they be considered to be, oh, what are you? You're just a chippy, or you're just a sparky, or, you know, whatever. And we've got a whole rail system here. It's ground to a halt. Why? Well, because they can't get enough people to work on the railways. Not enough
Do you think
people
if we put enough money
who are
into,
electrically trained to work on the railways?
I mean, I think the ultimate advantage is going to be for people who actually do pick up a trade, because they'll be the only ones who can do it. And they'll have to be paid much more than I think a lot of them are being paid today, which many of the trades are being paid very well, but it'll be even more dramatic. So it's yet to be seen.
All the immigrants are going to take up those jobs, and they're going to just laugh at the people that
aren't doing hard work.
Not doing that work, and they're gonna reap the benefits.
Yeah,
well, that's what they do now, right? They come over
at your house, and it's $200. Hello,
right? But that's what they do now, though. Think about it. They come over, they work at a 7-Eleven, right, or a convenience store or a restaurant, and 10 years later they own a slew of them. Because why? Because they have a work ethic. And we don't have that anymore. So
Yeah.
when, going back to the very beginning of the show, and you're talking about
You get fat and
bricks
happy.
and currency, that's it, right? Everyone in America just wants to lay around and, have this whatever, and everyone else that's never had it's coming here and taking over. So you really
Well,
can't blame them.
If you want to see what happens when you ban all hardworking immigrants, just look what's happening in the UK after Brexit. It's going down the pan. They got unemployment figures are virtually nothing. They can't get any tradespeople to do anything because they aren't there or they're already being employed. These are people, a lot of people that just didn't feel welcome anymore and left, took their skills with them.
I thought it was because the Queen died. Oh well, what do I know?
No, that was before then.
So, I know, I'm being a smartass. All right, so gentlemen, any last comments before we go to Lost and Found? Because unfortunately today we have a short show. Which for our fans is very, very exciting. I bet they're like, yay, they're going to shut up sooner. But for the fans that love us, we're going to go to Lost and Found. David, I'll run this because your controls seem to be a little wacky. So don't worry about it. I'll push the button for you. Don't worry. Any final thoughts before we go to Lost and Found on this subject, guys?
No, John?
I think we're good.
Everyone's just sitting there smiling like we're doing a photo op. All right, we're going to go to Lost and Found now. Everybody that watched the main show, Lost and Found is coming up. So if you're watching the main show or listening to the main show, you get it all. And for you people that'll be on Lost and Found, they'll hear a little spiel there. Thank you. Don't forget to subscribe and like. And Michael Collins' interview is still up for those people that missed it. It's actually doing well. So, and that is it. And we will see everybody next Saturday morning. So now it's time for the Lost and Found. Here we go. If you like the Lost Dollar Business Club, you should subscribe. If you like it that much, you should also tell a friend of yours. So you should subscribe and like. Also, you should put comments below so we know what you're thinking. Tell us what shows you want to hear. Just help us make it better.
So who's lost $1 this week? And who's found $1 this week?
And now we're back. Dun, 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 dun. Welcome to the Lost and Found show. So,
Lost and Found. Who's got one?
All right, I'm going to go first today because I'm going to start off with stuff that should get John going because that's what I live for. Yesterday it was announced that Baidu and ByteDance in China, John, this is China, bung, bung, boom, bang, 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 and Dancing Dragons has now come up with their own chat GB4 or equivalent to. So on their sites now, you have Baidu and ByteDance now have their own AI. So they're very happy, very proud of that, and they're kicking butt with it apparently. So there you go. Well, that's
when you have a monopoly on AI.
Hey, listen, we're not going to discuss that the panda what he's got. But I think, and I don't know if we have sound effects because they may not be working, but that is actually a found dollar.
It's a found dollar.
I think it's going to be a found dollar because I think it's going to make the U.S. now.
Sorry.
Thank you. It's going to make the U.S. speed up, I think, and the rest of the world start speeding up their process and thinking, look how great we are. We're not so great. I think China's showing, listen, we're just as great as you. So I think that's going to make the rest of the world more competitive. So I'm excited about that.
You've got huge AI developments coming out of Facebook, Google, and OpenAI with the new versions of all of their AI. So this could be some healthy competition.
Yeah, it'll be fun. That was it. That's all I got. Next,
that's it.
I have more, John, but I don't want to give you 75 things on China to get you upset. So
no, I'm upset. So I think I have well, in the UK, the terrorist mayor that they have in London called Sadiq Khan decided that they're going to put hundreds of, maybe thousands of ultra low emission zone cameras, but the population in the UK said, no, I don't think so. And they've taken down like I think 20% or 25% of the cameras. They go and they cut them. So I think that's maybe it's $1 gain for people in London. I definitely approve of that. And the other one,
as Americans, we support the people.
We love the people.
The other one is
John's a
English
communist.
rapper, Australian, Iggy Azalea did a concert in Riyadh, and she was putting on the show, and bow down to the goddess, and there was apparently a wardrobe malfunction, and it showed her leg, and it caused all sorts of rows. Meanwhile, so pornography and blasphemy, according to the clerics.
Saudi?
So
Wow.
yeah,
Oh, so that's a found dollar then.
That's a found dollar there, pal.
Yeah, if you ask Cardi B, definitely found.
Yeah.
That's a found dollar.
Ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching.
There you go.
Sex always pays, John.
There you go. All right, it's either Kurt or Michael, and then David goes last. You guys got some concocta thing.
We got to balance out all these found dollars with a lost dollar.
I got one.
Lost dollar for Gannett. So Gannett, the newspaper publishing house in the United States, they publish all these local papers, or seemingly local papers. They tried to use AI to write a high school sports articles, and they apparently did their version of AI called Lead AI did a terrible job, and just was repeating itself, was putting in merge fields, so you couldn't, it wasn't actually coherent, and a lot of people mocked it on social media. So that's a loss for Gannett, but that's a win for actual sports writers who are still writing.
All six of them. All right, Kurt, what do you have before David comes and gives us some crazy fakakta thing about us growing tomatoes on the moon?
Lost dollar, for sure. As if life in Canada couldn't be worse, with the cost of living here being double what it is on south of the border.
Yeah.
The government's decided, hey, we're going to raise the interest rates one more time. Rock and roll. Thanks.
We have that too.
Yeah.
So that's a found dollar then for the Canadian government.
Yeah, found for the 1%.
That's ka-ching then, really, because they found. I just think all that maple syrup they can buy with that. I mean, it's
Oh my God!
Wow.
All right, David. Wait, I'm sitting down. I have scotch at my ready.
Yeah.
Go ahead. What's your fakakta thing this week? Yeah. What are we doing? We're doing what on what planet? And growing a cow. Where?
All right,
what's going on?
Well, are you sitting comfortably, gentlemen?
Because
I'm now about to begin. This is, I think, an absolute found dollar in so many ways, and this is about a brand new football league in Scotland called the Scotland's Warrior Premier League, and it's only for people who are overweight. You can only participate in this if you have a waist size of at least 38 inches, that's 96 centimeters, and your BMI is over 30, which makes you, by definition, clinically obese. So there's about 500 people involved in the league, and they've got great names for the teams. One of the teams is called Monster Muncher, and the other team is called Aloha Anti-Athletic, I think it's called. And they're going to be running a trophy at the end of the year, so somebody will win the league.
A pizza? But big pizza cake.
but obviously it's been put up because people feel that they're going to try and help people to lose weight and most importantly to improve mental well-being. So that's an absolute ka-ching.
I have a question on this football
Scotland's
league.
Warrior Premier League.
If you're the new football league for fat people, let's just be blunt. And you lose weight. Let's say I'm playing
You're
football.
You're still allowed to play.
Even if I go down from a 38 waist down to like a 30 waist because I lost weight.
Yes.
As long as I start as a fat person, I'm okay. Okay.
Yes.
That's very cool. I like that. So they're going to bring in fat people. Let's just call it what it is.
Well, they've got 500 men, and they've had a lot of women as well who want to do it, and they're hoping very much next season
to get exercises and whatever.
Women is obese
to have a women's league. So this will be Scotland's. So it's called Scotland's Warriors Premier League Football.
Right, but basically, if you're overweight or according to their scale obese, They want you to come in, get exercise, which I actually like. And then even the next season, if you're down to like a 32 waist and your BMI is low, you can still play. You'll be playing with other people that were, but you'll be playing with other people then that were overweight.
Yeah. So
I like that. That's very cool. That's a good team approach, a mental approach to help you lose weight. You have a support of 500 people.
You
like
thought you thought I was going to bring something silly to this show.
Well, it's silly, but it's a good silly. It's a good silly. It's not our usual like, oh my God, we're gonna grow a cow on the moon thing.
You do realize that this could be the first athletic league that could be out of business in 5 years due to its own success.
That's true. That's very true.
Yeah, they've built that. Built that. It's like it's built in. But I think there's always going to be, certainly in Scotland,
people.
a lot. Yeah.
I think there's always going to be fat people. Yeah.
Well, I was reading an interview, and as one of the gentlemen explained, he said, "I have a little bit too much timber on my shed." So,
that's cute. I like that.
There you go.
Well, guys, we have to go because one of our guys has to actually go to work today, that's crazy. Anyway,
on a Saturday morning.
I know that's just because he's dedicated to his job. Subscribe and like. We will see you all next week. If you like any part of the show, leave comments. If you don't like the part, keep your mouth shut. But don't forget to subscribe and like. Give us a thumbs up. It helps out the show. Guys, always a pleasure to see all of you. We'll see you all next Saturday morning. Cheers, everybody. Don't worry, David. I got the button. Or you have.